welcome to the eLearning Today TV show. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Lena.
And we have some great stuff for you this week. I want to start off with a video. It's from the Citizens Commission for Human Rights, and it's kind of focusing on parents and teachers, or parents and doctors that are labeling kids at an early age without any real tests or genetic testing, blood tests, anything like that. They're kind of giving them these mental disorders or disabilities, and the video basically is focusing on how they're labeled, and I think that it's good to show kids not only if they have a mental disability, but any real label that you do give them. This video reminds them that they don't really have to be stuck with it, or they don't have to think of that every day and that's what they are. It doesn't really define who they are. So I want to play the video. The volume's going to start in a minute. Okay, so you get the idea. Basically, it has the kids and they're kind of ripping off their labels. Okay. So it's basically the kids are kind of saying, you know, this doesn't define who I am, and it kind of shows how they can break out of these labels that they're given by adults and other people. So it's a great video. I think you should show any kid. So
it's very inspirational, and even sometimes adults give themselves labels for no reason.
Right.
So I think it's great for both parents and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So another thing to get you kind of inspired is games for social change. This week I found that there's a lot of people out there thinking of how to use games not only for social change out in the world, but also in the educational world and so forth. And what they're saying is that games are becoming one of the most powerful media of this century, and so how can we use that to help with social causes or just in education? So the question was that once games break through or become a breakthrough in the classroom, then you're going to have meet that gap between what students do during the during the school day, and then when they come home and they're basically in front of their games. So if you can breach that gap with your students or your own kids, if you're homeschooling and so forth, you're probably going to have a breakthrough in learning. And one great example that I found out was Quest2Learn. It's a school that is kind of testing this new method or model of game-based learning. And what they do is they have the kids build these virtual worlds in which they get to learn. And what I liked about that was that I myself, I'm a very hands-on person, so I need to be interacting with what I'm learning. And even in college, I had a hard time with certain concepts that if I'm not doing them at the same time, it may be a little bit difficult to learn. So this is something that is going to change, I think, the education in the next few years. And so we'll keep an eye out for that and what innovations, and probably one thing that is going to be big is once the iPads, the iPhones, the iTouch have that ability to let Flash play and so forth, then you'll have a lot of video games and things like that that are going to help with breaching that gap between what you do in the classroom and when you get home and you're again in front of a video game and so forth. So pretty cool stuff. There's also an application that was developed by Parsons Design School in New York with association of a bunch of other people, but pretty much what they did is they recreated different spots that used to be habitated areas in New York, and so now you go with your iPhone and you walk around and you get to see like this environment there, and you get points and that kind of thing. So that's a great learning tool for, let's say, kids that grow up in the city and may not have access to a lot of green areas and so forth. So it's one way to also teach your kids maybe about environment and so forth. So that's another way of how this will impact education and even the environment and social costs. So pretty cool stuff out there.
Very cool. Okay, and I found 4 apps this week that all have to do with comic books that I wanted to share with everyone. The first one, I have links to all of these in the blog. The first one is just called Comics, and you can use it on the iPhone, the iPod Touch, and the iPad. And it basically has, I think there's over 300 free ones. Wow. And it is actually featured on Jimmy Kimmel, and it was featured on CNN, so it's a really great app. It pretty much has the largest comic library among the other apps there. The next one's IDW Comics, and basically you'll get access to the whole IDW library. And again, it works on all the Apple devices, and there's over 650 comics in this one. And there's some like big TV and film names like Transformers and Star Trek, and all of those old classic ones are also in there. And then there's the Marvel Comics app, which again, you'll see things like Spider-Man and Captain America and all those. And that one's really great also because you can download pretty much hundreds of them, and just like the other ones, they're all going to stay on your iPad, so you can, or your iPod, whatever. You can use it over. And the last one is the Archie Comics one that I actually downloaded onto the iPod. And I really like it because you can see all, once you download them, you can see them all. I only downloaded one. But if you want to zoom in there. And you can also change the views. So once you click on it, I think I chose the curl. So see how the page is curling? And you can flip it, you could slide it, you can change all the things, and you can also zoom. So, whoop, it's going crazy. So yeah, I really like this app, and I was going through it. It has a lot of pages in it, so I could see a kid being very entertained just reading this. And again, they're reading on the app, and it's fun. So, and there's also really nice graphics. So
that's great. And what I like about this too is that if you grew up reading comics, now you don't actually have to save your comics to leave for your kids, because now you have them on the app. So you don't have to have a basement full of them when you can have it on the app. So that's pretty cool. A pretty cool idea.
And there's tons of free ones on there also. So
great.
That's it.
Cool. So talking about apps and phones and everything. There's a Facebook phone that is coming out. Well, it's rumored to be coming out. We don't have all the details. The media out there is trying to figure out what's happening with this.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up in the show is because we always talk about how to use social media in the classroom and education with the kids, parents, etc. So this is probably a good time to get that kind of started if you are not in the Facebook wagon yet. So when those phones come out, every kid is gonna have it. And what they're doing is like they're not going to have an app like most of our phones do. What they're doing is actually programming features of Facebook and functions of Facebook into the operating system of the phone. The operating system of the phone is kind of like your Windows in your computer, or your Snow Leopard in Mac, etc. So that's what we mean. Our phones, Blackberries, use their own software and so forth. So this phone is actually going to be kind of like merge their DNA with Facebook and so forth. And there's going to be a lot that is going to be, the people are going to be able to do just from their phone. So I like the idea that educators and parents can create groups, educational groups, and so forth. And so this is another sign that you kind of gotta get it started now. So yeah,
I look forward to see if that really exists.
Exactly.
And I'll get one.
We don't know when it's gonna come out, how much is it gonna be. I think it's gonna be a very kind of plain phone. They're just gonna have some features of Facebook in there, and maybe possibly some apps, because it is gonna be running Android in there. So
all right. Well, Well, that's our show. See you next week.